Hey there, Jimmy the K with another installment of the Jimmy the K Sports Show. So much has happened in the last couple of weeks. We had a week hiatus. I was actually going to do a Labor Day show, but then time just got past me, and so much sports things can come up, and just time had passed by. So that's not an excuse. It's just a holiday, and people want to get out and have fun and just relax, and that's what we did. So much has happened in the last couple of weeks sports wise. Let's go ahead and get to a couple of the things that have happened in the last couple of weeks in Major League Baseball. First, we're going to start off with the firing of Bo Porter as the Houston Astros manager. Now, this happened because of General Manager Jeff Lunau's decision that the Astros were not headed in the right direction. Um, Personally, I think the general manager doesn't know his butt from a hole in the ground. The Astros had turned around the record this year. A better record than last year. They were not last. They were next to last. The Rangers are in last, and we'll get to them here in a couple minutes. But he felt like this team needed to go in another direction. Uh, to be quite honest with you, it had nothing to do with the team needing to go in another direction. There was a lot of speculation, and some people that I know with ESPN and some higher ups out there that have a little bit more intel than what I do, that there was a lot of riffraff, a lot of dissension between Bo Porter and the front office and general manager office of the Houston Astros that led to him being fired. You know, a lot of people are going to, a lot of people in Houston don't like the fact that he was fired. He was a very smart manager, and I really do feel like he would have got this team over the hump. I said earlier this season that the Astros would be a third place team. They're fourth right now in the AL West with Texas at the bottom. All right, I'm pretty good right there as the standings go. But you totally screw up your clubhouse and say, "Hey guys, we're going to fire him because I have a difference of opinion than what he does. You don't like me, I don't like you. You're fired. Get out of here." It's corporate America bull crap. You know, so the Houston Astros are now stuck with that of an interim manager, and their interim manager is that of Tom Lawless. And what do we know about Lawless? He worked in the minor league system for the Houston Astros uh, under the AAA manager Tony DeFrancisco. This is a fun name to say. Tony DeFrancisco. When he was on medical leave, he did an okay job. Dave Tremblay was also fired from the Houston Astros organization. He was replaced by that of former Major League player Adam Everett. Will Everett do a little bit better job bench coach than Dave Tremblay did? I feel like he will. But should dissension or front office morale be a decision maker and whether or not a coach or manager should be fired? That question is going to do a total 180, 360, whatever you want to call it, to other sports news that I have coming up here in a few minutes that I kind of want to leave for the last because I want to leave you hanging on the edge of your seat right now. So, with that being said, Houston fired their manager, Bo Porter. What does that do to the Houston Astros? I actually had a friend of mine down in Houston, a very good friend of mine, and a good supporter of the Jimmy the K Sports Show. Tori Bustle actually asked me what I felt like this would solve for the Houston Astro organization. You know, Troy, I already answered this for you on the All About Sports Zone Facebook page, but I'll go ahead and state it here as well. It won't solve a thing. You know, basically, the firing of Bo Porter just makes an almighty general manager feel more almighty than what he needs to be. And sometimes I think general managers get it into their heads that they feel like, hey, the owners have given me the power to do whatever I want. So, you know, this manager is performing, in my opinion, you know, this is my God honest opinion. You know, you can call me out on my opinions. You have your opinions. I'm going to get into something else along those lines towards the end of the show. So I don't want to get into it just yet. But you have your opinions. I have mine. Everyone has their opinions, but we'll get into that. You know, but my opinion is that this just gives the general manager more power to say, hey, I can usurp my authority over you. You know, you're not going to win games. You're going to put us in last or next to last. And what am I going to do? I'm going to fire you. You know, Luhnow, don't get me wrong, was a very good general manager in the St. Louis organization. So could this all turn out for the better? Definitely. He's definitely turned around the minor league system in the Astros organization. If you look at some of the young talent that they have coming up, they've got some pretty good young talent that will get them over the hump at some point. A lot of people say 2017 is going to be the year that the Astros have said that they're going to compete. 2017, really, 2017. They are in fourth place right now in the AL West, and a division that other than Houston and Texas, who Texas has been so injury riddled this year that they're having problems. You know, Texas would be in the hunt of the top four, the top five. They'd be up there in the wild card standings and with everyone else if it be not for the injuries. Would the Astros be there? You know, the Astros have played some very tough games this year. The Astros have proven under Bo Porter, in my opinion, before he was fired, that they could hang with the best of the best. They won series against New York. They won series against Cleveland. They won series against Detroit. They won series against Boston. Those are the best of the best right there. You know, a lot of people will say, well, Boston, you know, they were last 2 years ago. They won the World Series last year, and they kind of back towards the bottom again this year. You know, that happens. That happens. So, you know, I still think that Houston has hung with the best of the best this year. So why do you fire a manager who's got your team in fourth place right now and who I feel by all means by next year, you know, I had it called by next year the AL West was going to be so tight that it was going to look like the AL East this year. You know, the AL East for the last 2 or 3 years has been so tight and scrunched together. It's come down to last week who won the AL East. The AL East. So with that being said, you know, I had it called earlier this year, and because of unfortunate circumstances that we'll get into towards the end of the show, I had the AL West being so tight and looking like the AL East. So, you know, could it still happen? Possibly. Will it happen? I don't know. Now, with that being said, there was some other weird sports things that went on this week in the sports world. They're actually pretty hilarious, to tell you the truth, because I actually called this earlier this week, and that's the fact that everyone knows that at the end of the preseason, Michael Sam was cut by the St. Louis Rams. There was rumors, there was chatter going on during that last preseason week, and Jerry Jones totally dismissed this as being hearsay, so to speak. But I called it after he was cut by the St. Louis Rams that Jerry Jones was going to go out and sign Michael Sam. What happened 2 or 3 days after the fact? Who's now signed to the practice squad of the Dallas Cowboys? Michael Sam. Despite his lifestyle, I'm not a fan of his lifestyle. I'm not a fan of that lifestyle at all. But despite that lifestyle, despite his lifestyle, I could very well see, and through preseason, you saw that. A lot of people are like, well, he played with the second and third stringers. Well, yeah, that's fine. He played with second and third stringers, and he had 4 or 5 sacks. But this is my call right here. I very well could see Michael Sam being that next to Marcus Ware. I could very well see that. He's got his head on his shoulders. He's got his heart on his sleeves. And with my head on my shoulders and my heart on my sleeves, I'm going out and I'm getting 150% over that next guy who's only getting 100%. So let it be known that here, you heard it here and only here on the Jimmy the K Sports Show, I could very well see Michael Sam being the next DeMarcus Ware. A lot of people want to know if he'll ever get to see any playing time this season. I very well say he will see playing time this season. I say possibly by anywhere week 2 to 3, he could be in a Cowboys uniform playing the defensive side of the football. So week 2 to 3, he's on the defensive side of the football for the Dallas Cowboys. He could very well be the next DeMarcus Ware. And these are all my opinions. What are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts so far? You know, the show's going to continue on as I have more topics to go on, but you have the privilege, if you have a Facebook page, to Facebook question me. On the right to the window, you see a menu. You can hit me up there, or message me there, or message me any other way that you know of. What are your thoughts on the signing of Michael Sam to the Cowboys squad? Do you think he'll see the light of day for the Dallas Cowboys, or will another team swoop in and sign him to the defensive side of the football? What are your thoughts on the firing of Bo Porter? What are your thoughts there? Do you think it was a good job by Jeff Luhnow, or do you think Bo Porter got screwed? Your thoughts. You have the chat window. You can chat with me live. You can ask questions. I love the fact that you are part of my show. So get on over. Send me a chat if you're on Twitter, Facebook. You have that capability. If you look to the right of your window, you can send those messages to me live, and I will get to them live. What other things happen in the sports world? That's what I want to get to last. If you're a Houston Texans fan, the Houston Texans signed J.J. Watt to a reported 6-year, $100 million deal. 6-year, $100 million deal. J.J. Watt is a middle linebacker that deserves that money. What was the funniest thing was, if I'm not mistaken, I read all over the place that the deal he signed that the day that he signed that deal, he went home, told his maid or house cleaner or whatever it was to go home, gave her a huge tip and said, "Don't come back." And if you do, you'll keep getting tips like this. And she's like, "Hola, senor. Thank you so very much. I thank you so very much for coming to the Quickie Mart." Oh, never mind. Wrong version. But that was definitely something. That's good news for Texans fans out there. If you're a Texans fan, J.J. Watt, a healthy J.J. Watt's going to get you a long way. A healthy Jadeveon Clowney is going to get you a long way. A healthy defense is going to get you a long way. Offensively, if you can put offense and defense together, your team's going to be a shot in the arm for a lot of NFL teams this year. So my call is that defensively on the defensive side of the football, the Texans are going to be in the top 5 this year. Offensively, they're not even going to be in the top 30. So, defensively, they're going to look great. Offensively, they'll need to do some work, but the Texans did an excellent job by signing J.J. Watt to an extension. Now, to the most important thing to our fans out there that are Rangers fans. Yesterday, about noonish time, Central Time, Ron Washington of the Texas Rangers put in his resignation. Now, I want you to realize that what I'm going to say next is only my opinion. It's only my opinion. Take it as that. We all have our opinions, and I hope that your opinion and my opinion will work together, and we'll come to the conclusion that our opinions are complete, and that we can all have the human frame of mind of coming to our own conclusions. I'm going to call out certain Facebook pages, one in particular that I'm a part of, entitled Texas Rangers Fans. I love being a part of this community. 1,000 people. You can add them to your Facebook site, and it's great. It's great. But yesterday, on the thread of Ron Washington putting in his resignation, when people started calling for JD's head or saying it was the curse of Nolan Ryan, which, I'm not into the whole curse of Nolan Ryan thing, although I think it's funny sometimes. But when they called it and said the curse of Nolan Ryan and calling for JD's head would not be allowed on this Texas Rangers fan site, anything else would be deleted. That's when you as a community, as a page, have to take your gloves off. And this is me taking my gloves off right now. This is me taking my gloves off. While I like being parts of these Facebook communities, Texas Rangers fans, etc., I do not, as a human being, feel like you have the right to tell me what I can and can't post on your pages unless it be some type of bad content. If you're on my page, I do reserve the right to say, if you're going to cuss me out on my page, I do reserve the right to continue to ban you from my page, from my show, etc. But if I'm going to have my opinion, I am not going to ban you from this show, from the All About Sports Zone Facebook page, in general, for having your opinion. It's your opinion. We as human beings have the opportunity to come to our own conclusions and our own mindsets. And when we as pages starts going to the way of saying, hey guys, you can't do this or you can't do that, or your opinions don't count, but only our opinions count, and those opinions that are our opinions are going to be posted on this page, do you start losing fans? I don't have the biggest following here. I have a weekly like page on the All About Sports Zone of 25 likes, about 10 people talking about me, and a weekly outreach here in the last 3 weeks of about 700 people. Okay? That's not the greatest numbers in my opinion. But do I care about the numbers? No. I care about you, the fans, the people that are going to go out there and tell your friends, hey, the Jimmy the K sports shows, on Saturdays, 8 p.m. Central Time. Check it out. Here's his link. Here's his Facebook page. Go and like the page. He's awesome. He puts up these things. If you like the page and you want to message him a question, he'll answer that question live on a show, no matter what that question may be, no matter the sport, whatever. If I don't know anything about the sport, if it's like horse racing and you ask me, what do I think about so-and-so winning the Triple Crown? I'm going to tell you, I don't know, but I'm going to research it and get back to you that next week, possibly. So I'm not going to tell you as a fan of my show that you can't have your opinions. Where I will tell you that I will ban you is if you come on my Facebook page and say, hey, you're an effing idiot, or go F yourself, or you start bullying me. Once we started getting into the bullying crap, then that's when I will tell you, hey, you gotta hit the road, Jack. Otherwise I'm gonna ban you. That's just the way it goes. But when I tell you you can't have your opinion that may differ from mine, otherwise I'm gonna ban you or take your stuff off my page, that's when me as a sports host are going to stop losing listeners, followers, etc. So with that being said, this is me taking my gloves off. If you want to leave right now and are viewing the show and want to leave, fine. But this is my thoughts on Ron Washington's resignation. And I'm going to read you some of the quotes that he said during the press conference because I want you to look into it, to delve into it as much as I've delved into it. Now, this has been going all out. I do not by any means feel like Ron Washington resigned because of two things. Two things. I don't know if y'all recall or not, but before the All-Star break, John Daniels went to the coaching staff because ownership had told John Daniels to go to the coaching staff and basically told them, you have so much time to get your act together, otherwise this will happen. Do I buy the fact that Ron Washington resigned? No, I do not buy the fact that he resigned. Some other things that come up. Leonys Martin, this could go either way. Leonys Martin on his Twitter page yesterday said something, and I believe the quote was something to the effect as, Ron approached me and said it was horrible. He hopes no one ever has to go through this. That could lean whether it be a family issue, whether it be a health issue for him, or whether it could also lean towards the fact that he was fired and just didn't want to say that he was fired, and that, John Daniels and ownership is telling him this is a quote unquote resignation. Now, this is Washington's exact quote, okay? This is exact quote from Ron Washington. I'm reading it verbatim. I give credit to the people and Ron Washington for all of this statement because I have to give credit where credit is due. This is the following statement from Ron Washington, and it reads as this. It says, today, I have submitted my resignation from the job that I love, managing the Rangers, in order to devote my full attention to addressing an off-the-field personal matter. This personal matter, from what I hear, and from what all the sources that I know, a couple of top sources that I know at ESPN, a couple of sports places, have told me this has nothing to do with the cocaine problem that he had in 2009. Period. It has nothing to do with that. So let's not go that route. But as painful as it is, stepping away from the game is what's best for me and my family, end quote. To that part. Okay, quote, this was something else that he said. This is in no way related to disappointing performance of the team this season. We were already discussing 2015 and looking forward to getting the Rangers back to playoff contention. I deeply regret that I've let down the Rangers organization and our great fans over the past 8 seasons. It's been a privilege to be part of some of the best years in club history, and I will always be grateful for the opportunities that I've had here, and for the great management, players, and coaches who have made our time here a success. Thank you for respecting my privacy. Now, the other thing that has weighed on me is the fact that if this is a resignation, so to speak, how many times, out of how many resignations, I want the fans out there, and you know how to get in touch with me through the Facebook page. If you're a friend of mine on Facebook, you can just message me there, or message me once this link is up, however, or you can chat with me live right now. But how many have actually heard coaches say during a resignation that it was not due to the fact of the disappointing performance of the team, blah, blah, blah? To my knowledge, I've never heard a manager who has resigned ever say that, ever, whether it be personal matters, etc., etc. So with that being said, that's what makes me lean more towards the fact that he was forced out by whether it be ownership or John Daniels. I'm not going to lie, I'm not the biggest JD fan. JD has made some boneheaded decisions, and the Rangers have went downhill since Nolan Ryan has left. Now, whether that had been JD's decision or whether that be ownership's decision, I don't know. But whoever's decision it was a boneheaded one. You know, I'm not going to go into this and say that the Prince Fielder deal was a bad deal yet. We won't know until next year. Prince Fielder never sees the light of day in a Ranger uniform except for 2 or 3 games, and he's constantly hurt all the other times. Then we'll know that it was a boneheaded deal by ownership, John Daniels, whoever you want to say it was a boneheaded deal from. But with that being said, am I calling this the curse of Nolan Ryan? No. Am I saying this is JD's fault? No. What I am saying is that there's underlying circumstances here. Ron Washington may or may not want people to know. I hope by all means that I don't wish ill will on anybody. Ron Washington was the best manager that the Rangers had ever seen in club history. And I echo a comment that was made on the Texas Rangers fan by one of the fans that basically said his enthusiasm and energy is going to be missed from the game. It's not only going to be missed by the players and in the clubhouse. You could already see that energy gone this season once the Rangers were out of playoff contention. That's another thing that brings up a big light bulb, was the fact that he resigns the day after the Rangers were literally, as the exact day after they were pushed out of playoff contention. We knew as Ranger fans at the All-Star break they were out of playoff contentions. But he resigns the day after. That's another red flag. So with that being said, it could be ownership. It could be JD. It could be somebody else's power struggle that wanted the team. I'm not buying the fact that it's personal matters. But I've been known to eat crow before. At the same time, that I called the Michael Sam deal. I have made bad calls on this show. I called at the beginning of the season, and if you remember watching shows from the beginning of the season, if you remember watching shows from the beginning of the season, you know what my take was on the season. I had Oakland winning the West. I had Texas in second, Seattle in third, Los Angeles in fourth, Houston in fifth. That's not working out for me. I told you I'd eat crow here on the show. I guess I better go outside and shoot a crow and eat it, right? I'm not always right. While at the same time that I made the call on Michael Sam, I've made bad calls on this Rangers season. I've made bad calls on the front office of the Rangers organization at times. I've made calls, whether it be good or bad, on Ron Washington and the coaching staff and the players. I've made calls on so many things that sometimes I'm right and sometimes I'm wrong. It's kind of like the candy bar. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Almond Joys have nuts. John Daniels don't. Oh, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding right there. John Daniels, please do not look at this show and decide you're going to sue me, okay? That was a joke, all right? But in my opinion, this is my opinion, and you have your own. I personally believe that what needs to happen to this team from ownership, it needs to come down after this season. They need to be put on probation. Say, hey, you have so much time to get your act together. Otherwise, we're cleaning house. I've said this all along. I've said this for the last 2 months. That's JD and everyone else on down. And personally, I think if John Daniels is ever fired from this job, Thad Levine, who's his assistant general manager, needs to be given the reins. Thad Levine has called John Daniels out on a couple of things this year. Without calling him out and losing his job, so to speak. But what I'd hate to see is Thad Levine go the same way A.J. Preller went, who was an assistant general manager to John Daniels also. Now he's in the Padres organization. I hate to see Levine go the same way Preller did. I really like Levine here calling the shots rather than John Daniels. But again, that's my own personal opinion. So with that being said, I'm going to go over a couple of college football scores for today. I'll go over the few that I've got here. So for your enjoyment. So if you feel if you feel Ron Washington's resignation was due to a personal reason, more power to you. I'm still not buying it just yet. I mean, it's very possible. It's a family matter, and he said he needs to spend more time. It's very possible anything could have happened. What one of his family members could have killed somebody in a drunk driving accident, and that family member's calling him out for never spending more time with him or whatever, and so, he's having to step back. But truthfully, I just think there's just too many red flags. There's too many red flags in my personal opinion. And again, this is only my opinion. Do I feel like this is by any means the truth? No, I don't feel like this is the truth. I really don't know what the whole underlying circumstances are. I do know that a couple of higher people that I know at ESPN and a couple of sports places do know a couple of higher ups, people like John Kruk, people who actually really love the way Ron Washington coached, that really feel like something happened other than it being a personal matter. But they being nationally televised and stuff like that, they just can't happen. They just can't state it. My friend Brian Williams, who I believe is actually watching the show, actually called me out here. He called me out. He called me out there. But that's what I love about my fans. They'll call me out. I love it when they call me. He sent me a Facebook message and actually told me, he goes, "You thought he would resign at the All Star break." Actually, I did. Now I do remember saying that. I do remember saying that now. So at the same time, you know, Ron Washington was the catalyst to the Rangers organization, to that Rangers clubhouse, so to speak. Not having that catalyst is going to be very disappointing. Do I call myself less of a fan because Ron Washington is no longer coaching? No. I still think this team can get over the hump. Do I think Tim Bogar, who is the interim manager right now, is the best fix? No. Do I think Mike Maddox is a good fit? I think Mike Maddox could very well be a good manager. I really do. I think Mike Maddox could very well be a great manager. I very well could see Greg Maddox, his brother, being a great manager, but at the same time, he's already stated that he wants to spend a little bit more time with his family. But there's always that fact that he's a special assistant in the Rangers organization. To the fact that if Mike Maddox is hired as the manager, who better else could be a better pitching coach than your brother, who was a great pitcher in the Atlanta Braves organization when they won so many of their World Series in the 90s? What better duo could that be? A brother duo of Mike Maddox and Greg Maddox. That would be an awesome duo. But there's other coaching candidates out there. I could very well see. A lot of people think Michael Young should take the coaching job. I very well could see that myself. I think if the Rangers are going to interview managers at the end of the season, I could go through a whole host of players. You know, Michael Young being one, Mike Maddox being another, Tim Bogar you still got to give a look at. Um, I like I said, yeah. Who else? Pudge Rodriguez could very well be a good manager if they could understand what he was saying. I'm sorry, I had to go there. Um, Pudge Pudge is Pudge is a great guy. He's a really great guy. I could very well see him being a good manager for the Rangers. I could very well see the doctor of defense, Mark McLemore, a good manager for Texas. Um, there's so many people out there, and there'll be people out there, you know, that will end up leading posts after this year, or there will be hitting coaches that will leave teams. But internally, those are the top five that I could very well see, them interviewing for the Rangers organization. If they were to pick one of those five, I think their strongest candidate, in my opinion, for the managing job for the Rangers would be Michael Young. I really do. I think he was loved in the Rangers organization. He was loved by a lot of the players that played with him. Derek Holland played with him. A lot of these guys played with him and they know what kind of talent, what kind of coach he would be. So he would be the top choice. You know, if I'm Texas, I'm saying, okay, I'm going to interview these 5 internal candidates. This is me being the general manager. This is me setting aside the show and being the general manager. This is me interviewing Michael Young, Mike Maddox, Tim Bogar, Pudge Rodriguez, and the Doctor of Defense, Mark McLemore. These are my candidates. You know, Mark McLemore is probably going to be on the top of my list. Not Mark McLemore. Michael Young's going to be on the top of my list. He's going to be the top one that I'm probably going to pick. If Michael Young doesn't take the job, I'm going to look at Mike Maddox as being a good manager. Mike Maddox, with his brother Greg Maddox, hopefully taking the reins as a pitching coach. Or, you know, there's several former Atlanta Braves pitchers that could very well be good at pitching coaches. Why do I keep saying hitting coach? Pitching coaches. Greg Maddox being one, John Smoltz being another. You know, Kurt Schilling could be a great pitching coach, in my opinion. Anybody but Roger Clemens, please. Steroids, please. But Michael Young, your number 1 choice. Mike Maddox, number 2, if I'm hiring. Tim Bogar would probably not be my 3rd choice. Tim Bogar is probably going to be 5. You're looking at Pudge Rodriguez being 3rd, Doctor of Defense 4th, and Tim Bogar 5th. Because, you know, while Tim Bogar has coaching experience, Michael Young has the experience of being around a lot of these Ranger players, knowing how to get them to motivate themselves to that next level of a contention team. Personally, and this is my opinion, this is me taking off the general manager hat and becoming Jimmy the K Sports Show, or becoming Jimmy the K again. Personally, if they hire Michael Young as a manager, despite the fact that Ron Washington is gone, I could very well see Texas contending again next year. Other than Michael Young as a manager, Mike Maddox could possibly get them to contention again next year. But outside of that, I don't see anybody getting them into contention again next year, except them being healthy. A lot of people are going to be like, well, what about their health? You know, health has been the number 1 concern this year. You know, if they were healthy, this team would not be dead last. I guarantee you, this team would not be dead last. Now, good friend of mine, Brian Williams, sends me a question via Facebook, and this is actually a pretty good question. It's something that I've had to give thought to a lot, because there's lots of priorities that you're sitting here and going, wow, okay, I'm kind of pulling my hair out here, because, you know, there's different ways you could go. He wants to know, other than a manager this year, what is the Rangers' number 1 need to get back to winning next year? You know, honestly, I'm going to go the unconventional route and say they need at least 1 more good starting pitcher. You know, Kobe Lewis has proved me wrong this year. I thought Kobe Lewis would not be all that great, especially after having 2 hip surgeries. But he's proved me wrong. He's very well going to be a 10-game winner. So Kobe will be back. Derek's going to be back. Darvish is going to be back. Okay, you've got young talent and Nick Martinez. You look at people like Scott Baker. You know, Robbie Ross has got to be in the bullpen. Tanner Shepard will probably get a look at again, but you're probably going to put him in the bullpen. There's lots of young talent that you can look at pitching-wise, but I want at least 1 more pitcher. I want somebody like a Joe Saunders. You know, if you can give me 1 more good pitcher, I think if Texas is healthy next year, despite the fact that they don't have the best power in the world or a big power hitter, et cetera, their pitching would get them over the top, having somebody like Joe Saunders. Because you could have a 4 of Darvish, Saunders, Holland, Lewis, and then mix that in with, somebody like Nick Martinez, somebody like Scott Baker, who's pitched pretty well. Guys that have stepped in and done a pretty good job this year. Personally, that would lead you to winning a lot of 1-0 games, but those winning 1-0 games could get you over that hump that you're not getting over this year. A lot of people feel, in their opinion, they need power. Honestly, I do think they need one more power bat. I think, you've got to go after power for one, and one more starting pitcher for two. Texas ownership has done something in the last 2 years that they haven't done in years past, and they've started spending money. They're up there with it. They'll be up there with the Yankees and top spenders like that. But despite that, they're kind of towards the bottom right now. So they need one more power bat, and who that power bat's going to be, I really don't know. But I think they need to go after a top pitching prospect like Joe Saunders. Then you have a four all four of those guys are very, very well. Holland is a 15-game winner healthy. Darvish is a 15-game winner healthy. Kobe Lewis could very well, if he stays healthy next year, be a 15-game winner. Holland could be a 15-game winner. Then you add in Martinez, who's a 10-game winner. And you add a power bat to that, just one power bat. One power bat. This team has proven with their young talent right now that they could hang with the best of the best. Do I see Profar being the future at second base? Not after a full season of Rougned Odor. I very well could see them putting Profar on the trade block. But, you kind of got to look at this. If you put Rougned or if you put Jurickson Profar on the trade block, what are you going to get for this? Are you going to get anything real good considering he hasn't played? Or do you put Rougned Odor, who's had pretty well a complete whole season at second base, on the trade block and, get something big in return? In my opinion, the Rangers need a power bat, and they need one more starting pitcher. A lot of people don't feel like they need another starting pitcher. They have a lot of young talent in the lower levels, and I will agree somewhat with that. But even with their top three starters completely healthy, Darvish, Holland, and Lewis completely healthy this year, the injuries would have killed them. The young pitching, I love the fact that we're getting a look at some of our young pitching. But I still do feel like we need to spend a little bit of money on somebody like Joe Saunders. Somebody that can get us a fourth starter, and then we use that fifth starter for a young talent like Nick Martinez, who honestly is my top priority right now. As a Ranger fan, you have to say, Nick Martinez has come out and given his all every game. Despite wins and losses, he's had good wins. He's had bad losses. Despite that, he's given his all no matter what. They need power bats, though. They really, really do. So, with that being said, this team has a lot of work to do in the offseason. Now, is it a lot that I think that they can do a complete 360 and win the West again? No, I don't. I really don't. I think this team has the potential to be a Boston Red Sox. You remember the Red Sox, they were dead last one year. The next year they were healthy. They were healthy, and they won the World Series. My God honest opinion is that is the Rangers. Health wise, this Ranger team healthy is a World Series team. So, but with that being said, they have a manager that they have a manager job that they've got to look at. And like I said, taking off my Jimmy the K Sports Show hat and putting on my general manager hat, I'm interviewing 5 internal, they have somewhat to do with the organization. 5 internal people. Michael Young being 1, Mike Maddox being 2, Tim Bogart 3, Doctor of Defense Mark McLemore, and Pudge Rodriguez being our 5 internal people that we're going to interview. My top job is to hire Michael Young. Michael Young has the experience with some of those players, knowing them, playing with them, being around them, that he could very well be that catalyst that makes us. We'll never forget Ron Washington. Don't get me wrong. I in my years of being a Ranger fan, have never forgot Johnny Oates. Johnny Oates got us to the first playoff contention ever in 96, 98, 99, but we just could never get over the hump. I've never forgotten Johnny Oates. Johnny Oates, left, and the next thing we know, a few years later, we hear he has brain cancer and he dies. I hope, God forbid, that's not the case for Ron Washington. I hope and pray that I am right and that my opinion is, not off the cuff, but right, because seeing something happen to Ron Washington would just spark the fear in our eyes as Ranger fans. But with that being said, Michael Young has been around these guys long enough. He's played with them enough. He knows how to spark them. I very well, very, very, very well could see Michael Young being the next manager of this team. I really could. If he decides that that's the route that he wants to go, that's the route that I see this Rangers organization going. And that's the route I see this team getting back to the playoffs and winning a World Series. With that being said, I've sputtered on so much on whether it be my opinion or fact on Ron Washington and the Texas Rangers. I'm going to go over a few of college football scores. This is actually airing live, so if you actually watch this later in the later next week or so, these are actually going to be for September 6th football games. So I'm going to go over some of the football scores really, really fast for you. Some of these are live, and if they are live, I'll let you know what quarter they are in and what the score is. But I'll start from the bottom and go on my way up. And then towards the end of the show, I want your thoughts on who you think is going to be playing in the national championship. And do you think the playoff picture is actually going to be a good deal or not? Okay, where do I start? Let's start from the top. Start from the top here, Adam Levine. Right now, in the fourth quarter, with 1 minute and 27 seconds left, you have Oregon over Mississippi State. No, Michigan State, excuse me. Michigan State, 39-27. Arizona State, 45 to University of New Mexico's 21. That's with 2 minutes and 5 seconds left in the third quarter. 14 minutes and 20 seconds left in the fourth quarter. You have San Jose State University, 13, Auburn, 45. ECU 22, South Carolina 30, and that's with 12 minutes and 3 seconds in the fourth quarter. With 13 minutes and 23 seconds in the fourth quarter, you have Louisville over Murray 59-21. Michigan losing 21-0 to Notre Dame in the third quarter with 6 minutes and 34 seconds. 14 minutes and 55 seconds in the fourth quarter, you have Florida State 34, Citadel nothing. 14 minutes 34 seconds in the third quarter, Baylor 49, Northwest State 3. 7 minutes 11 seconds in the third quarter, LSU 42, Sam Houston State 0. Texas A&M 12 minutes 55 seconds in the quarter, they are tied at 0. Halftime, you have University of North Carolina down to San Diego State University 14-7. Halftime, Ohio State down, the 8th ranked Ohio State down to Virginia Tech 21-7. And looking at some of our finals, 4th ranked Oklahoma 52-7 over Tulsa, Kansas State 32, Iowa State 28, MCNS, that's McNeese, loses to Nebraska 31-24. Wisconsin all over WIU 37-4. Alabama murders FAU 41-0. Missouri all over Toledo 49-23. South Carolina State loses to Clemson 73-7. Stanford loses to USC 13-10. I believe that was on a last-minute field goal. Mississippi all over Vanderbilt 41-3. And with 10 minutes left, well, not 10 minutes, with a 10 p.m. start in the Pac-12, Memphis and UCLA. So, with that being said, who was your big surprise of college football today on September 6th? Do you have a surprise? Was there a team that you felt like could have beaten a ranked team, should have beaten a ranked team? What are your thoughts on the playoff situation coming to college football? All that and more coming up next week on the Jimmy the K Sports Show. Remember, we've moved up an hour. We're doing 8 p.m. Central Time instead of 9 for these hour-long shows, because when I do hour-long shows, it makes for eating really, really late. I'm kidding. No, but with that being said, until next Saturday, 8 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Remember, there are 3 easy ways you can get in touch with me, or 4, however you want to look at it. You can like our Facebook page at facebook.com/allaboutsportszone. You like the page? You can comment on one of the links that I put up with a video and ask a question. You can message me through the All About Sports Zone page. Or if you're a friend of mine, you can message me personally through there. Or if you have a Twitter account, you can follow at JimmyKersey1 and message me your questions through Twitter. Or everyone has email these days. If you email me your questions at allaboutsportszone, that's one word, allaboutsportszone@gmail.com, I will get to them each and every week, Saturday, 8 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Until next Saturday, I'm Jimmy the K. 8 p.m. Central Daylight Time next week. Peace out.